AEW was coming off Grand Slam Australia this past weekend. We had a bunch of big matches on Saturday. No title changes. We had actually 2 title changes last week on Dynamite. But tonight we had a first time ever main event. Big main event tonight. Kenny Omega one-on-one with Swerve Strickland. Nothing on the line, although you have 2 men who have staked their claim to wanting to be the AEW World Champion. And this right here is what is carrying these shows story-wise right now. It is the world title scene in AEW, because all of these different challengers have been lined up for MJF, and you could see other ones also kind of off in the distance, Will Ospreay and people like the Darby Allin. Eventually I'm sure they'll circle back to him, but Kenny and Swerve have been very clear in their intentions that they want to be the champion again. So tonight they went one-on-one, and what we got here in this match is actually something that I was not expecting, but it is something that I am very happy that we got, because heel Swerve is the best Swerve. And that is what we had at the end of Dynamite tonight. Whether or not it ends up being a full-on heel turn or not, I guess we'll have to wait and see, but it sure felt like it, because everybody loves Kenny Omega, and those fans were booing the hell out of Swerve Strickland when this show was over. These 2 guys went out there 1 week after Tommaso Ciampa and Kyle Fletcher had the best television match of the year, and they said, "Hold my beer." And they went out and they topped it, and they had, so far, the best television match of the year. An excellent main event with a major angle to close the show. So not just a great match, right? We got plenty of great matches on Dynamite any given week. But we actually had a major angle here to close out the show with Swerve Strickland doing whatever it takes to beat Kenny Omega. We got a decisive winner in this match. I wasn't sure how they were going to handle this. We've heard rumors about Kenny Omega potentially not being available for Revolution this year. He's going to be over in Japan. We don't know if they're going to try to work it out where maybe he can be back in time for Revolution. He may not be. In fact, it looks like he probably won't be based on what they did tonight, because they wrote him off the show. But this was a match that had world title implications, because you would think whoever came out of this match would very likely be the #1 contender after Hangman gets his shot at Revolution, although they never actually said that. But Swerve beats Kenny Omega, and then he lays a beating on this man and actually puts him through the announce desk with a vertebreaker. He killed Kenny at the end of Dynamite tonight, and so we have heel Swerve back. And as I look ahead now at where we're going with this, because we also tonight on the show had a face-off between champion and challenger, MJF and Hangman Page, face-to-face in the ring, laying it down as far as Revolution is concerned, teasing a special stipulation for the match that will likely end up being Texas Death because it's Hangman. But a stipulation was also added to the match, which we have not seen here in AEW in a very long time, and it is a stipulation that was utilized by one Cody Rhodes many years ago in the infancy of AEW, and it did not work out very well for Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes was rendered unable to ever challenge for the AEW World title ever again. Something that Cody himself, I believe, has said was a mistake, because it boxed them into a corner with one of their biggest stars, right? In the infancy of the company. Like, why would you do that? And of course, it's pro wrestling, so you could always just go back on your word or figure out a way around it if you really want to. But they went back to that well tonight with Hangman Page, who said, look, I'm willing to put it all on the line against you at Revolution. So if I can't beat you, then I can never again challenge for the AEW World Championship. He didn't say so long as you're the champion. He said ever again. And I don't know why they would do this again to themselves. I don't know why they would box themselves into a corner. Of course, the biggest difference now is that, unlike when Cody Rhodes was there in 2019, they have a hell of a lot more belts on this roster. So it's not like Hangman, he's got no shortage of championships that he could challenge for if he can't go after the world title. So that was also unexpected, not something I really am a big fan of, unlike that main event tonight, which I was a huge fan of. We also had a TBS title, Fatal 4-Way match, which I enjoyed. I thought it was actually a very fun match. Willow Nightingale, still the TBS champion, although, you know, watching the match, it did feel to me like they were potentially setting up Megan Bayne for a singles opportunity, which I'm still holding out hope is the case. But there were also some faces missing on the show. You know, we had Lena Cross, the Australian independent star, making her official debut at Grand Slam this weekend, actually coming to the aid of Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. She was nowhere to be found. I don't even think she was mentioned. She was nowhere to be found on the show tonight. I mentioned Tommaso Ciampa, right, who was TNT champion last week, had that great match, lost, not even mentioned on the show this week. Nowhere to be found. So I don't know if that means he's going to be relegated to Collision from here on out or not. I was hoping we would see some sort of follow-up with him on the show tonight, and unfortunately we did not have that. But we also know who Jon Moxley is putting his Continental title on the line against at Revolution. And if you saw Grand Slam this past weekend, it really shouldn't be all that big of a surprise. It will be Konosuke Takeshita. Only this time there will be no time limit for their match. And after mentioning that they've done little, if anything, since World's End to really further the story between Takeshita and Okada, we did have a little something tonight. Takeshita was not on the show tonight. Okada was, very briefly. Like, blink and you missed it. But you can kind of see where things are headed. It's just not going to happen at Revolution with Takeshita and Okada. And I have a feeling we're going to have to wait quite some time to see that rematch between those two. But I enjoyed this show a lot. I felt like in the second hour was a little bit weak. I mean, obviously the main event was the best part of the entire show, but there was some stuff in the second hour that kind of slowed it down a little bit. They're trying to feature as many people as they can. Again, there's so many people on this roster. There's no way that you're going to be able to feature all the people that you would like for them to, or everybody, frankly, that they need to and should be featuring, like Ciampa coming off that big loss last week. But we had like the debut of the Brawling Birds tonight, which is the new team of Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor, because they're trying to, increase the level of competition in the women's tag team division. Kevin Knight, all right? Look at someone like the Jet, Kevin Knight. Young star, super talented, somebody that has been rubbing shoulders with some of the bigger names in recent weeks, right? He wrestled Swerve, even, for example, not that long ago. And he had a great showing in the Continental Classic. The key with really trying to build up somebody like that is getting him airtime on the main show, right? Collision is one thing. Dynamite is their A show. Dynamite is the most viewed show. And so you want to try to get him as much screen time on that show as possible. So they threw a match out there tonight between him and the Beast Mortos, right? It's one of those random matches, but you look at that, it's important to get people like him on TV as much as possible. But it's a struggle because, again, there's only so much airtime here on this show. And by no means am I sitting here advocating for, Dynamite to go 3 hours. But you just have to do a good job of rotating people in and out and not keeping them off the show for too long. So, we saw some different faces on the show tonight. I thought that it was a smaller venue. It kind of reminded me, I think somebody said this in the chat, it kind of had a Hammerstein vibe to me. I think they were in Sacramento tonight. So it was a small venue, but when Jon Moxley came in at the beginning of the show and he walks in through the back of the crowd, it looked pretty packed in there. So I just thought, as smaller venues go visually on TV, I thought it looked good. But when the show was over, the main event, the women's four-way match, I thought, the segment with MJF and Hangman, was solid for what it needed to be as far as their main event of Revolution. I enjoyed the show. It feels like Dynamite over the last few weeks especially has gotten into a rhythm here that I felt like I wasn't feeling before that. But the last few weeks, things have definitely been an improvement. And it helps over the last 2 weeks to have the two best TV matches of the year. And we will talk about that main event. We will talk about everything on this show because that's what we do. I'm like Triple H. That's what we do. It's what we do. We talk about Dynamite. This is your AEW Dynamite review. It is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. I am the Solomonster. Thank you guys for hanging out with me here on a Wednesday night. And like and subscribe. Super chats are open. So if you would like to support the channel, if you have a question or a comment about tonight's show, send it on in, and I will read them a little bit later on here in the stream. And for those of you who may have missed it, yesterday, episode number 2 of the Uncrowned Wrestling Show from Yahoo Sports over on the Ariel Helwani Show channel went up. It went live yesterday evening. And I appreciate the feedback I've gotten so far. We actually worked in some listener Q&A at the end of the episode as well, which I'll try to do every week if I can. But go check it out. Covered a lot of ground on that show, including some topics from TNA and New Japan that I did not have a chance to talk about on the Sound Off on Sunday. So you get a little bit of variety there. And keep supporting. Keep supporting and keep sending in that feedback. It means a lot. I appreciate that. Now, let's go ahead and spin the wheel. This has become customary here, so we can find out how many likes we need here on the stream tonight. I saw we had I don't know what we had, 120 or 130 before I even went live. I feel like it's going to be a good night as far as the wheel. I got a good feeling about it. Let's find out. 432, which I believe is doable. So 432 likes, that is the goal for tonight. So you see there in that super chat, Super Saiyan John Cena. I want you all to kind of hulk up like John Cena there and get me to 432 likes. That's your homework assignment. The Dynamite came on the air tonight with Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, and Bryan Danielson. And I wonder if Danielson is working these shows because they're out on the West Coast. Because that's where I believe he dwells. Because he has talked about, the travel has really wreaked havoc on his neck. But they're in California. I think they were in California last week. I think they're in California for the next few weeks. They're in California for Revolution. So I wonder if we'll be seeing him more often on TV. And we had comments backstage, rapid fire comments from various competitors here on the show tonight, including Mina Shirakawa. I'll give you one guess. What happened to poor Mina here on this show? What do you think happened to Mina? What do you think Mina's one job was? Keyword job here on the show. It's always good to see Mina. She was one of the 4 participants in the TBS title Fatal 4-Way. Willow Nightingale talked about not having to be pinned to lose her championship tonight, but she realizes that comes with the territory. And of course, we cut to Swerve, Strickland, and Kenny Omega for some comments on their main event. So after that, we went to Renee, who was in the back with Orange Cassidy. This was from earlier today. And she asked about Roderick Strong walking out on him in their tag team match last week. He said, thankfully, the conglomeration has a lot of members. Oh, yes, but not as many as the Don Callis family. But the conglomeration has a lot of members. And so tonight, he's going to be teaming with this man. And in walks Tomohiro Ishii. Like, they dust him off every now and then. He pops up on Dynamite. So he was going to be tagging with him against Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors. That's later. First up, though, we had Jon Moxley against Mark Davis. Continental title Eliminator match. Moxley's been having these weekly on TV. I have to say, I am glad that they are using Mark Davis on television, even though his tag team partner got hurt. And it would be very easy for them to just kind of relegate him to the back burner right now. He never wins. Okay, he never wins. But he's a fun brawler. And I've actually taken to enjoying his matches, even though he never wins. So when I saw that it was Davis and Moxley, I mean, obviously I already knew how this was going to go. But I said, okay, this could be an interesting clash here between these two. So Moxley escaped to the floor early. Davis, though, followed, and he lined him up right against the post. He was going to give him a punch. And Moxley ducked. And Davis full-on punches the post. And the sound that this made. And immediately, he grabs his hand. Davis, he busted his hand open on that shot. You can see the blood coming in between his fingers. So, of course, for Moxley, it's like, chum in the water here. Oh, fuck, I see blood. And it's not mine. Wow. I got some catching up to do. So, of course, he goes right over to the hand and he starts, he's separating the fingers and he's biting the bloody fingers because he's a sick fuck. Then he placed the hand on the steel steps and he stomped on it. They had a close-up at one point of Davis's hand, and his finger just looked all gnarly to me. So it's entirely possible that he really did break his hand or some fingers on his hand, which is the last thing that he needs is another injury. He's already had a couple in the past. So they went to a break. When they came back, Moxley was sitting in a chair outside in the corner near the barricade. Davis charged in at him and mostly whiffed on what would have been a hip attack. So he's going back. Moxley is after the bloody fingers and the bloody knuckles. They get back in the ring. He hits him with a superplex. Davis came back. He attempted a lariat, and Moxley ducked it and hit a cutter. Tried for a sleeper. That didn't work out too well. A little bit later on, Davis, he turned a gut wrench into a pile driver for a near fall. So now they're trading shots. Moxley was able to take him down. He got the bulldog choke applied, and not long after that, he got the tap out. Surprise, surprise. Jon Moxley beats Mark Davis. I mean, you could have predicted that 10 times out of 10. That result will be the same. So we know that the Callis family and the Death Riders have been squabbling now for many, many weeks. This was an extension of that because Mark Davis is a member of the Don Callis family. But if you saw Grand Slam on Saturday, it was Moxley and Takeshita. They went to a 20-minute draw. So there was no winner in their Continental title match. And if you join me in the review, I said, well, this whole time I was just assuming, because they've made us wait this long, that the match for Revolution would be Okada and Takeshita. And Revolution is typically one of their top 3 biggest shows of the year. A few years ago, it was probably their top show of the year, if you want to count the Sting retirement. So it's a big show. It's the perfect time to run this back, right? A few months after the Continental Classic. And they've done nothing since the Continental Classic to further things along with Takeshita and Okada. They've done nothing, which was very strange. And then I saw what they did on Saturday, and I said, okay, we're obviously going to get a rematch. And it feels to me like that is what the rematch is going to be, which makes me think that he takes the Continental title from Moxley, which I would like to see. And now he's got a belt. Okada's got a belt. He was making fun of him tonight. Oh, he's not here, and I have a belt, and he doesn't. So they're both going to have belts and eventually have a unification match. But then when does that unification match happen? And I could see Tony wanting to hold off on that until they get to Wembley. But that's in August. We are in February. That's a long gap. I would rather not wait that long to get this match. But it kind of feels to me like he may look at that as one of the marquee matches on that card. And it would be. It would be one of the marquee matches on that show. But man, that's a long time to wait. You could have Takeshita defend against a few different challengers to kill time between now and then, but that is a long gap there. We have to wait to get that match. Later in the show, Jon Moxley, he was backstage with the Death Riders, and he said that I'm not done with Takeshita. He said, Revolution, Hollywood, no time limits. One way or the other, there must be a winner as long as it takes. And then it was made official. We got the graphic and everything. That match will happen. No time limit for the title of Revolution. Now, after this, we had FTR wheeling Stokely Hathaway, still in the wheelchair, out to the ring. And Excalibur is talking about, this is not on the format. This is not on the format. I don't know what's going on here. Dax Harwood was barely able to speak before a chance of shut the fuck up rained down upon him. And he brought up how the Young Bucks called themselves the best team in the world 10 years ago, but cut to today and they're sitting comfortably in second place. Stokely said that, truth be told, it pisses him off that last week on Dynamite, the Young Bucks shook hands with the Rascals. They shook hands with Private Party, which is interesting because the Bucks tried to run Private Party out of the company about a year and a half ago. But now all of a sudden they're good. Said that fakeness is what he hates about AEW. That fakeness is what he hates about pro wrestling. It's true. Pro wrestling is fake. No lies detected. So at the top of FTR's hate list is Matt and Nick Jackson. Right underneath them are their parents, followed by their delinquent kids running around backstage. So as he's speaking, the Bucks slip into the ring behind him, take out FTR. Now they're beating up FTR. I think they super kicked him, and like the ring is bouncing around. Stokely's in the chair with his back turned as if he is completely oblivious to this. And then he kind of realizes, something's going on behind me. So he turns around and he starts backtracking, and the crowd, of course, wants the super kicks. So he gets knocked out of his chair with a pair of kicks. And the Bucks hold up the tag belts. They officially issued the challenge to FTR for a title match at Revolution, which of course is going to be in LA. It's basically in their backyard. And we were told later that Tony Khan has made this official now for the pay-per-view. I wish we weren't back to this again. Not that the Bucks and FTR do not have good wrestling matches. They do. We've seen it many times. I mean, look, there was a point years ago where I said the same thing about the Usos and the New Day. And more often than not, the Usos and the New Day, they would go out there and have really good matches. But you just get to a point where it's like, all right, I'd like to move beyond this. Now, I will tell you that this will be the first time since Dynasty in 2024, almost a full 2 years ago, that these two teams are squaring off 2-on-2. Couple of other times they've been involved in like a 3-way or a 4-way, but this is actually the first straight tag team match that these two teams have had in 2 years. It doesn't feel that long to me, but it is the first time in 2 years. I wish that there, was something else we could go to. There really is no other team though right now that's built up to be in this spot. And whatever's going on with Cope and Christian, I mean, maybe they'll come back, maybe they won't. I don't really give a shit at this point. But there's no one who's really built up for this spot right now. And also, they've been hampered by injuries, right? I mean, you got to take into account the Hurt Syndicate. Bobby Lashley's out hurt. There is no Hurt Syndicate. They reunited Jurassic Express. Luchasaurus got hurt. There is no Jurassic Express. Mark Davis and Jake Doyle just got put together. Doyle is done. He's injured. Davis is on his own. No more tag team. So that hasn't helped. So this is what we're left with. But it is the first time in a while that we're going to get it. As far as who wins, I still don't think the belts are coming off FTR until Cope and Christian come back. I don't envision a title change in this match. Now they cut back to a promo that was shot in Australia, backstage at Grand Slam, with Bandito was there, but it was Brody King. He was, I think, sitting on top of a production crate or something. This was after his loss to MJF. He came this close to winning the AEW World Championship. He fell short, and so he was not very happy about it. But he talked about how he was so close he could taste it, but he's not going to sit around feeling sorry for himself. He says, bring the biggest and bring the baddest. February 25th, he's coming back. That's next week on Dynamite. And he's getting back into the world title hunt, and he's looking for a fight. And this ties in with what I said at the beginning of the stream here about the world title scene right now in AEW, where even people that had their shot and lost, right? And Bandito got a shot last month. Now Brody had his shot. He lost. But that doesn't mean he's out of the mix, right? He still wants to be in the hunt for the world championship. Everything revolves around the AEW world title. That's like their power source, right? What Hogan used to do, he would point to the middle of his hand, right? The power lies right here, brother, right here. That's the AEW world title. And everybody wants a piece of the AEW world title. Everybody wants a piece of MJF's ass, including Brody King. And actually, given what they did at the end of Dynamite tonight, and I'm looking ahead to Revolution, they're in Los Angeles. You want to get Brody King in a match on that show. I think they may have set up an opponent for him at the end of Dynamite tonight. If Kenny Omega's not back in time to be at Revolution, we could be looking at a Swerve Strickland Brody King match on that show. Now that I think about it. But we had a 4-way after this for the TBS Championship. Willow Nightingale defending against Megan Bayne, Mina Shirakawa, and Marina Shafir. Now, Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford were unsuccessful in their bid to win the women's tag team titles on Saturday, which are held by Willow and Harley Cameron. So Willow has 2 titles, as does Hangman. I'm sorry. Well, if Hangman wins at Revolution, he would have 2 titles. But Willow at the moment has 2 championships. So here, there was no Harley. She wasn't, I think she's still in Australia. Marina, though, quickly sent Mina to the outside, turned things into a handicap match. Her and Megan were targeting Willow, who ended up sending both women out over the top to the floor. There was a cannonball that connected off the apron. Mina followed with a huge crossbody off the top rope onto the pile. Later on, Bayne picked up Mina, and she just chucked her out of the ring onto the floor, onto Marina and Willow as they cut to a break. Bayne missed a senton on Mina, and she squashed Marina. That allowed Mina to nail Megan with a sling blade. Willow flattened everybody with spine busters, and the straps came down, and all four women rose, and they were trading shots. Marina no-sold Mina initially, but then she ate the back fist. Bayne and Nightingale, they wiped out Marina and Mina, and then they collided with each other on a double clothesline spot into a reset. Willow was up first. She spiked Bayne with a DVD. Marina was there, though, with a Uranagi. So everyone's outside now. And Bayne takes out the pile with a tope out to the floor. So Bayne blocked a kick. She powerbombed Marina onto, there's a table in the timekeeper's area, and she powerbombed her onto the table, which didn't break, and then Marina just sort of fell over the table and then splattered on the floor. Back inside, Bayne went up top for possibly a moonsault, I think maybe she was trying for. Willow cut her off, and Willow Nightingale drops Megan Bayne with an avalanche German suplex that looked absolutely terrifying. I shrieked when Megan Bayne landed on the mat, and she was able to twist and get herself over just enough where she didn't either land on her head or directly on her face. It kind of looked like she did land on her face. Very, very scary. And even she had a look on her face. If you go back and watch, she had this look of like just shock on her face, like her life just flashed before her fucking eyes. So yes, that was very scary. Mina flew off the top with a shotgun drop kick, hit a back fist on Willow, and she went for the figure four. Willow, though, caught her with a flash cradle for the pin to retain the title. You know, I was watching this finish here, and I realized that no one in this company consumes more calories from all the pins that she eats than Mina Shirakawa. Yeah, there's a song that says, all I do is win. And Mina is the opposite of that. She should come out to the exact opposite entrance music, because all she does is lose and take the pin and take the losing fall in these matches. It's getting exhausting. She's over. People like her. She's got this bubbly personality. She's very charismatic. So people like Mina. She just never wins. So this was no different. I thought it was actually a really fun match. Otherwise, a few hiccups here and there, but I had fun with this one outside of that one avalanche German to Megan Bayne, which again was scary as all hell. I would have given her the win here. Now, I look ahead to Revolution. If we get a match for the TBS title on that show, maybe we do, maybe we don't. It felt to me like maybe they were building her towards that, Megan Bayne specifically, because I felt like she was the one who kind of looked the best coming out of this match. And they protected her in as much as she didn't take the pin here. You could do a singles match between them. And if they do a singles match, then great. They could put the belt on her there. I like the idea of her being the one to win the TBS title. I know Willow hasn't had it for a long time, but Willow has a tag title. Willow is already a champion. If Willow were to lose one or the other, if she was to lose the TBS title, it's not the end of the world. She's still a champion in this company in a division that they are trying to build up. You know, we didn't see the inspiration on this show, but they just signed the inspiration, right, to be in the tag team division. They put Jamie Hayter now in a tag team. They're trying to build up their women's tag team division. So it's not like she's got nothing going on if she drops the TBS title. Didn't happen tonight. Maybe it could happen at Revolution. But I think Megan Bayne would be a good choice for that. Now, at this point in the show, on commentary, LA Knight wins more than Mina does. You know what? You might not be too far off with that, Jay. What would the win-loss record be for a LA Knight Mina Shirakawa team? Would they win? Would they win a match? I'm not sure. Probably not. But on commentary, they cut to the announcers at ringside, and Excalibur got all serious, and he mentioned that they just lost a big name in the wrestling community, Kerwin Silfies, who, if you don't know, for decades, he was a director, if not the director, in the truck on the production end for WWE. He started with the company in 1985 and worked with them through the pandemic era, and then he got furloughed. So he was with them for a very long time, very, very key figure behind the scenes, and obviously many people who are now working for AEW. Not just talent on the roster or announcers, but again, people on the production end. Mike Mansouri, for example, who I know works, I believe he's the head of production for AEW, likely would have worked very closely with Kerwin. So there were a lot of people there who were clearly very emotional. Tony Schiavone spoke because he mentioned that for really the one full year he spent in WWE, because he would have come in, if it wasn't 89, maybe he came in the end of 88, but he specifically mentioned 1989 because by early 90, Tony was gone. But he got to work with Kerwin, and he had nothing but positive things to say about his experience working with him. Bryan Danielson got all choked up. He was getting very emotional. He said that he didn't know anything about TV production before working with Kerwin in WWE. And so he extended his condolences to his family. I thought this was a very classy tribute to someone who many viewers would have no idea who they are. You know, he was behind the camera. He was behind the scenes. He was not in front of the camera. And I think in his case, that's the way he wanted it. You didn't really get to see him very often. If you watch that Peacock documentary, the making of WrestleMania 9, I think he's, fairly prominently featured in that one. So this wasn't something that they had to do, but they did. I'm glad they did. It was a very classy thing for them to do. Now, at the top of the hour, we had Hangman Adam Page out to the ring, followed by the AEW World Champion, MJF, fresh off his win this weekend over Brody King. And there was a promise of no physicality between the two of them. They will meet at Revolution for the world title. MJF went first. And he said that this is no infomercial for Revolution. This is just a fact. He hates Hangman's guts. He hates everything about him. And he hates all of these dumb white trash hicks. Do they have hicks in Sacramento? All these dumb white trash hicks, he said, for thinking that Hangman is on MJF's level and having the gall to call Hangman the main character when the main character of AEW very clearly is him. And the fact that Hangman holds 2 wins over him makes him want to puke. He said Hangman's not better than him. He's just a lucky shot. But he can smell it on him. He can see it in his eyes. There's something off about him. Maybe because his 2 boyfriends, Kenny and Swerve, are fighting. Or maybe because he had the chance to be at the top of the mountain twice. And both times he crumbled under the pressure. Maybe he's wondering if he wins this title for a 3rd time and he crumbles again. Is everyone going to realize that he's always been nothing but a fraud? Who's to say? But the man that he's looking at right now is not the man that he faced at Revolution last year. Hangman is a lucky shot, but he's also all out of bullets. But on March 15th, on his birthday, yes, MJF is crossing over from his 20s to his 30s. He's changing decades on March 15th. He can't think of a better gift than finally ending the myth of Hangman Adam Page and his cowboy shit. So now it was Hangman's turn. See, they were very nice, allowing each other the time to speak and not interrupt each other. Hangman took offense to being called the lucky shot. Says the man who beat the absolute dog shit out of MJF twice last year. If there's a lucky shot in the ring right now, it's the man who had a guaranteed shot at the world title, took it home, sat on it, returned with a new head of hair thicker than Mark Davis. Look at Hangman with the jokes here. Mark Davis catching strays. He already has a fucked up hand. Now he's got to catch strays from Hangman here in this promo. But a man who inserted himself into a match between 3 other men who already hated each other, who waited on the floor, picked his ass, slid into the ring, kicked him in the balls, and collected the spoils of greater men. Says MJF says he hates him, but he hates MJF so much worse. And it's not because of any of that or all of the years of lying and cheating. It's because when he looks at MJF, he has never met someone more like him. It says MJF's desperation for love and acceptance, he's no better than that. And he hates it. And he knows how loyal MJF is to AEW. It feels just like him. And as much as everyone wants that championship, the two of them, they have always needed it. At Revolution, he wants to end this for good. Forever. And he thinks MJF knows that. This cannot be any normal wrestling match. Says he feels it. He knows it. So think about a stipulation. Pitch it. Let him hear it. Because he has always known what this match should be, and they should let the fans decide what this match should be. Well, that is a terrible idea. You cannot allow the fans to determine these things. That's not a good idea. So the fans started chanting Texas Death. At least they didn't start shouting exploding barbed wire death match. Last time they did one of those, it didn't turn out well. MJF says that if you think that we're going to do anything but a normal professional wrestling match for my title, you're out of your damn mind. Hangman thought he would say that because he's scared. He's always been a coward. So Max, if you will agree to this, I will give you something. I will give you my word. I will give the fans my word that if I do not win this match, then I will never again challenge for the AEW World title so long as I live. So MJF at that point, he cracked a smile and he told him, you got yourself a deal, cowboy. But as far as the stipulation goes, he's going to need a week to think it over. Because unlike Hangman, he doesn't shoot first and ask questions later. And Hangman told him to think it over, but he already knows the answer. Revolution. Texas Death. So I'm a little confused here because he offered to put his ability to ever challenge for the title again on the line in this match if MJF gives him what he wants, which is a Texas Death match. And MJF said, you have a deal, but I need a week to think of a stipulation. He just told you the stipulation. I don't know. That part of the promo was a little confusing to me. But Texas Death, I mean, look, Texas Death is Hangman's go-to stipulation, so no surprise there. I guess we'll see if ultimately, MJF decides on something different. But I don't think they would flat out say Texas Death and not deliver it, right? I mean, Tony knows what the fans now, what their expectations are and what they're looking for. They're looking for blood and guts and gore and violence and thumbtacks and staple guns and drinking blood and all the other shit that we see in these Texas Death matches. But the other stipulation, that other stipulation did not work out well for Cody Rhodes. And it really hamstrung him. And maybe even, frankly, played a role in his downfall in that company in terms of the fans they started to boo him and they started to kind of sour on Cody because you couldn't tell the obvious story. Look at how well the story worked for him in WWE. It was the story, right? I got to finish my story. They built an entire WrestleMania, 2 WrestleMania main events they built around his story. There was no story to tell like that for him in AEW because in the very first year that company existed, he snatched it away. And for what? To this day, I still don't really understand why they made that decision. It was dumb. It was completely unnecessary, and I feel like they're doing the same thing here now, with Hangman, where it just feels to me like they're boxing themselves into a corner, unnecessarily. So I am not a fan of the stipulation. I don't know if anybody even still really truly believes that Hangman now is going to win. Hangman is not going to win the championship of Revolution and go 3-0 on MJF and end his run this soon. Like, there's just no way. I mean, that would be booking malpractice if they take that title away from him on the 15th, let alone on the man's birthday, for crying out loud. Can't do that. So, yeah, I don't really understand why they're doing it, and I joked about it before, but it's true. I mean, the one big difference now in 2026 as compared to 2019, there are a lot of other championships for Hangman to compete for. In fact, he's holding one right now. He's got a trios belt, but they got the TNT title, and they got the Continental title, and they got the International title, and they have the National title. It's not like he doesn't have anything to fight for. But, yeah, you call him the main character in AEW. He's one of their top stars, 2-time world champion. And to say, well, I'll never again be able to challenge for the world title, it's just one of those things where they're trying to really drive interest in the match and sweeten the pot as much as possible. There are other ways to do that, you know, with other stipulations to make the match appealing without having to go down that road. I understand it adds an element of drama to the match now because you would hope with some of those near falls, like people are hanging on to every near fall. Oh my God, you know, Hangman's, you know, never going to be able to challenge again. And I get that's what they're going for, but I just feel like it's unnecessary. It's not needed. Yet Roderick says Hangman will be an awesome national champion. Sure. He wants to trade down. Instead of trading up, he'll be feuding with Ricochet for the national title. We had the conglomeration. Orange Cassidy and Tomohiro Ishii against the War Dogs, Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors. There was a spot late in the match where Connors tags in. Ishii is the legal man, and he charges towards Ishii, and Ishii collapses. Grabs his leg, grabs his hamstring, it looks like, and he just buckles to the mat. But he stayed in it. He looked like he was in pain. He got back up to his feet. He was moving very, very slow and very gingerly. But then again, that's kind of Ishii most of the time. He avoided a suplex. He planted Connors with a backdrop suplex. Ishii struggled to his feet, but he still turned Kidd inside out with a lariat. Connors, though, hit a snap power slam. Orange Cassidy, who I think had been dumped outside, he returned, having no idea that his partner was injured. Spiked Connors with a spinning DDT and a tope suicida on Gabe Kidd. So both men now brawl into the crowd. Darby Allin pops up, and he kidnaps Kidd deep into the crowd. Another kidnapping on this show. That's at least two. I feel like I may have missed one. That's at least two. Cassidy returned to the ring. He hit an orange punch on Connors, who stumbled back into what they said was a brain buster by Ishii. It was not a brain buster. It was a fucking vertical suplex is what it was. But they called it a brain buster. And Ishii got the win. And when the match was over, Cassidy and Rick Knox, they went over to check on him. He just looked like he was in rough shape. He was in very rough shape. On commentary, they speculated that Ishii may have torn his hamstring. I rewound it to earlier in the match just to see. To me, there was no noticeable moment in the match where he would have, and we don't know that he tore his hamstring. That's just, it looks like that probably is what happened here. Or maybe some other muscle. There was no obvious spot where it happened, so I don't know. But Ishii is older, and my God, the fucking wars that this guy has been in. Is it really shocking if he fucking pulled a hamstring here? I mean, look at the way the guy moves when he's healthy. But hey, I mean, look, he's a tough SOB. He was able to get back up and finish the match. But it definitely looked like he pulled something or tore something, because he was in agonizing pain, it looked like, there at the end. We had the Don Callis family, or half the family, shown backstage beating up a bunch of randos as Josh Alexander, as he was cutting his promo, he had somebody in an ankle lock. We couldn't see who. But they accept the challenge that the Death Riders had issued. Don Callis walks in. He accepts Moxley's challenge on behalf of Konosuke Takeshita, who is not there tonight. He's in Australia, still celebrating with Kyle Fletcher. after Fletcher's win over Mark Briscoe on Saturday. So then Okada walks in, and he's got his international title over his shoulder. He said he would love to be celebrating with Kyle in Australia, but he showed up here to do his job because he's a champion, unlike Takeshita. So Okada then welcomed in Andrade El Idolo, who was unsuccessful against Hangman on Saturday. And he referred to Andrade, Okada, as the uncrowned champion. There's only one uncrowned champion right here. And on that note, you can listen to the Uncrowned Wrestling Show. Episode number 2 is now up on the Ariel Helwani Show feed. Cheap plug. So yes, Andrade is the uncrowned champion. So he took his shades off, and he says that his eyes are on the AEW World title. So here's another example of someone who came out of Australia on the losing end, but they are still laser focused on being the AEW World Champion. Brody King is. Andrade is. And I mentioned this on the show this week, and I said, it would have been a great match at Revolution, and it would have been different to see Andrade in there against MJF. It's not the match that makes sense right now. I think a better place to do that match is in June, or whenever they're going back to Arena Mexico. I know Tony Khan has said we're definitely going back. We're going to do another Grand Slam Mexico. The one they did last year was a big hit. If they do Grand Slam Mexico again this year, Andrade and MJF on that show at Arena Mexico. That makes more sense to me. So hopefully he'll get his shot at some point. But then at the end of all this, Callis said that he sees Claudio Castagnoli. He's walking around with his CMLL world title, which would look incredible on the mantle of the Callis family. And then Don Callis, Okada, Andrade, Alexander, Lance Archer, El Clone, Rocky Romero, all cackle like evil cartoon villains to close out the segment. An evil cartoon villain faction doing evil cartoon villain faction things. There it is. Then we had a promo from Hook, who reminded us that in the absence of Samoa Joe, who I believe he's in concussion protocol. So we don't know when Joe is going to be back, but best wishes to him. But he's out hurt. He's not cleared. So in his place, he has anointed Hook as the leader of the Ops. Now, Samoa Joe is out, and Shibata's not around, because Hook here in this promo said that he sent Shibata back to Japan to recruit. They're looking to recruit new members of the Ops. And of course they are, because there is no members anymore. There are no members anymore. Joe is out hurt. Shibata's on the other side of the world. And then there's Hook eating his chips. So they have no other members. I could just picture Shibata on the fucking street corner with a giant sign. Hey, you want to join the Ops? I mean, I don't know where they're recruiting from, but apparently they're trying to recruit some new members here. But then Hook calls himself the greatest second-generation wrestler of all time. I know Samoa Joe may be in concussion protocol right now, but evidently AEW does not give cognitive tests to the members of the Ops. Perhaps they should start. We had the Brawling Brutes, or the Brawling Birds. Actually, that'd be a hell of a match. The Brawling Brutes against the Brawling Birds. We had Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor taking on Viva Van and Becca. I know these two ladies. They have appeared before in House of Glory. Actually, Becca, man, when Becca was in House of Glory, I'm trying to think if it was the first time we had her in. This would have been 3 years ago. I think she suffered a pretty serious knee injury. But Becca's very good. But this was the TV debut of Hayter and Windsor as a team. They have been airing vignettes on television now for a few weeks, building up to the debut of this new tag team. They gave Becca and Viva more time than they probably had to here, but they got some time to shine, did the other team. But the Birds took out Viva Van on the apron. Then they hit a heart attack finish to win it. And on that heart attack, Hayter just blasted her with a clothesline. So they win the match. Tony Schiavone said their finisher is called Two Birds, One Stone. Again, I think that Jamie Hayter is someone who should be in contention for the TBS title or the world title. I know she had her shot at World's End, but still. She is somebody who should be in that mix. But they have a tag team division that they have to build up. They have women's tag team titles that they just introduced a few months ago, and I don't want it to go the way of the WWE women's tag team division for so many years. You know, only over the last 6 months or so has WWE actually started to take their women's tag division seriously. I don't know what it was that caused them to have this epiphany that, hey, we should start doing something, but they've actually taken an interest, frankly, at the expense of the rest of the division on both shows. But AEW just introduced these titles, so they have to build up some new teams. And we're going to see more of this, either bringing in new teams or putting two people together who aren't actively involved in a major program. Okay, let's put them together and let's at least try to get something going there. I mean, the women's tag team scene right now in AEW is probably at least as strong as the men's. Maybe more so, especially with the injuries that have plagued the men's division. Now, Renee was backstage with Chris Statlander and a returning Thunder Rosa. Have not seen Thunder Rosa's face on TV in a very long time. I thought we were about to be introduced to a new tag team here. Renee said that Statlander is still not medically cleared to wrestle for a few weeks. Statlander said that she doesn't want to wrestle. She wants to fight Tekla. She lost her title last week to Tekla. Rosa said that she was cleared officially today, and she doesn't like what's been happening to Statlander. So while Statlander isn't cleared, Rosa is, and she wants a match. And Statlander warned Rosa, just be careful. Be careful of what Tekla is capable of. It's good to see Thunder Rosa back on TV. She hasn't wrestled at all. Not a single match since All In Texas last year, and that was in the Gauntlet. Gauntlet, Battle Royal, whatever it was. I think they did the Gauntlet. That was the last time that she wrestled. I know she was dealing with an injury. I don't know what the nature of the injury was. I think it was an unspecified injury. I know many years ago she had a bad back injury. I don't know that this was a back injury, but she had that. And then there was some news a few months ago that her and her husband of 14 years, they split up. So, you know, she's been dealing with some shit. But now she's cleared and now she's back on TV. But she's also another addition to a pretty stacked women's division. The exact opposite of what we're seeing right now on WWE television. The AEW women's division has amassed just a wealth of talent. And I'm not even including someone like Athena, who really is a Ring of Honor talent. Why she still is, I have no fucking idea, but she is. But they have a wealth of talent in that women's division. They just introduced Lena Cross on the Saturday show, even though she was nowhere to be found on the show tonight. I guess she'll be a Collision exclusive, I guess, is what Lena Cross will end up being. But there's been talk that Tony, he signed more people than even we know of. And again, we may have seen one of those people on Saturday, and who knows who else? I mean, there could be multiple other women who have been signed that we don't even know about yet. But he's got a wealth of talent in that division to work with. We had the Jet, Kevin Knight, against the Beast Mortos. Knight entered with Mike Bailey. They are 2/3 of the Trios champions. We got an inset promo that aired where Kevin Knight said that if the Beast can beat him tonight, La Facción Ingobernable would get a Trios title shot on Collision. And I was like, okay. Mortos winning a match. Now that's fucking hilarious. Like, okay. High comedy here from Kevin Knight. Mortos worked over Knight during the commercial break, and he launched Knight over the top and flattened him with a tornado dive. And the crowd popped for it. I mean, look, Mortos is fun to watch. And he goes out there and crowds into his matches. Never fucking wins. But he's fun to watch. Back inside, Mortos spiked Knight with a huge pop-up Samoan drop. Knight managed to battle back with a huge drop kick. And he used his... I mean, he was flying all over the ring and ended up taking the Beast down. Hit a leaping splash. Mortos avoided leaping DDT. He went to the corner. Knight met him with a leaping Hurricane Rana, and then a pendulum DDT. And then he went up top and he hit the UFO splash. And he picked up the win. Not a long match here, and it was one of those matches. It felt like a collision match in that it was just sort of thrown out there. A couple guys who don't really get a lot of airtime on this show on Wednesday. But Kevin Knight is one of those guys who I think has the potential to be to them what Kyle Fletcher has become. Where Kyle Fletcher, who also has become a good promo, and Kevin Knight I think could also end up in that category. He's one of those super talented younger guys who's very flashy in the ring and is fun to watch. And as a babyface, whereas Fletcher is a heel, but probably as a babyface, could get over as a big star, one of those big up-and-coming young rising stars for them. But you just got to give him the right focus and attention, which is what they did to Fletcher, and it paid off for them because Fletcher, they've turned Fletcher into a real star here on this roster. Kevin Knight has the potential, to be someone like that. But in order to do that, you got to give him matches on the show. And you would hope over time they could do a little bit better than the Beast Mortos, who never wins. But at least they're getting him airtime. Like if you were to say to me, hey, we got Speedball and we got Kevin Knight, and we're only going to have time, they're not going to do a tag match, but we only have time to put one of them on the show tonight, I'm going to say it should be Kevin Knight. Speedball does not need to be in that spot. Kevin Knight needs to, have those opportunities on the show coming out of that Continental Classic. I really think that you have to stick the landing and just get him consistently on the show. And these matches are okay, but preferably get him involved in a real story with somebody. But he's 1/3 of the Trios champion. So with the Trios nonsense, that's not gonna cut it. I actually feel like the Trios belts have become more of a detriment than anything else. It's like, oh, we have these Trios belts, so we have to occupy them somehow. Hey, we'll put Hangman together with Jet Speed, and they'll be the Trios champions. It's like, okay, I don't really know what purpose that serves. I feel like it might be more of a hindrance than anything else. Should be building these guys up for a tag team title shot. We got another Will Ospreay vignette where he was talking about if you think he'll be half the animal he was when he returns, no. This is where the best wrestle. It's where the Billy Goat wrestles. Every week we are getting new vignettes with him. So unless they're going to just continue to do this for the next 4 or 5 months, it sure feels like he's coming back relatively soon. It feels to me like they're expecting him to be back in time for the Owen. But the Owen probably is not going to start until probably June. You know what? I think that's doable. I think that's possible. But that's what it feels like to me. And then if you want him in the Owen and he could win the Owen, then you could send him to Wembley to challenge for the championship. But I feel like you want to take your time, telling that comeback story. Is there really going to be enough time? Depending on exactly when he's cleared. Do you tell that story, even if it's kind of quick, for All In this year? Or do you take your time with it and maybe tell it for next year? It's not like there's any lack of competition at the top of the card right now. Oh my God, what are they going to do? We're not going to have Ospreay back in time. Well, you got like this whole line of people that you could plug into that spot. Some people think AJ Styles could end up on that list. There is some smoke to that fire. I don't know how realistic it is. There's definitely chatter about it. I talked about that this weekend. We'll see what they do with AJ in the retirement ceremony on Monday. But there's been no news on whether or not he's actually still signed with them or not. Backstage, Ricochet and the Gates of Agony. We're talking about finally putting Jack Perry in the ground last week before talking about Kevin Knight getting lucky against Mortos tonight. Bishop Khan is furious that Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey are having singles matches and not defending the trios titles. Well, they got a legitimate gripe there. I'm with GOA on that. They absolutely have every reason to be pissed off about that. Toa Leona said that this Saturday, be prepared to be in deep waters against the Sharks. And Ricochet, he turned around. They were walking towards their dressing room. And on the door of the dressing room, there's a knife that is stabbed into the door. And Ricochet, he is concerned initially about this, and then he laughs it off. Because the knife you see is the calling card of Jungle Boy. Riveting, I know. Main event on this show, this was riveting. This was Kenny Omega for the first time ever going one-on-one against Swerve Strickland, two former AEW world champions going one-on-one. Crowd started the holy shit chants right from the opening bell. Both men were smacking each other in the face. Swerve fired off some forearm. He ran right into a standing Hurricane Rana from Omega that sent him outside. Omega wanted a Terminator dive. Swerve, though, cut him off and hit a Fosbury flop. So Swerve got sent into the crowd. Omega, he briefly stumbled, but then hit a moonsault off the barricade into the crowd. Got one final ad break here. Later on in the match, Omega connected on the You Can't Escape. Strickland, though, kicked out at 2, and then he sidestepped a charge in the corner. He brought Omega up in the corner. Took too long, though, for a top rope Hurricane Rana. That allowed Omega to slide out and plant him face first onto the post. Bryan Danielson on commentary said he sees that look in Swerve's eye. He sees that look. And he slammed Omega repeatedly into the buckles. Strickland wanted a vertebreaker on the apron. Thankfully for Kenny and his neck, he didn't get it. He wanted a Snapdragon, though. He got it. Omega gave a long look at the floor and looked back at Swerve. He wanted to give him a Snapdragon from the apron to the floor. Swerve, though, he fought him off. Omega switched to headbutts. He went right back to it, though, and he tried for a Snapdragon off the apron. And he got it, except that Swerve landed on his feet, and Omega fell backwards off the apron and landed flat on his back. But Swerve landed on his feet and ended up hitting a rolling suplex. Really, it was into a brain buster on the floor. So after throwing Omega back inside, Strickland hit a 450 to the back. Omega kicked out. Both men countered big pressure and Snapdragons, respectively. Omega connected on an avalanche dragon suplex as Swerve then called over to Aubrey Edwards as if his shoulder may have been dislocated. And it's like, oh boy, just what they need, right? Another injury here on this show. So he calls her over. Aubrey comes over to check on him, but as this is happening, Omega, he is charging in for a V-trigger. And at the very last second, Swerve grabs Aubrey Edwards and pulls her into the line of fire. And Omega blasts her with a V-trigger. And this got a big reaction. This got boos from the crowd. And I just love on commentary, the announcers, and Bryan Danielson in particular, who won the award, by the way. He won the Wrestling Observer 2025 award for Best Wrestling Announcer, Best Wrestling Commentator of the Year. Chimed in to tell us, I don't think he did that intentionally. And I'm like, yes, he did. Although if you don't think he did it intentionally, that's fine, but that just means you need to go see your optometrist and you got fucking cataracts in your eyes. Because he very clearly pulled her in the line of fire and got booed for it. So at this point, after the initial shock wore off and Kenny saw what he did, he's like, well, one can't grieve forever. The match must go on. So he attempts to go for a one-winged angel. Strickland rolls through. He hits a house call kick. And Swerve has the visual pin, but there's no referee. So Prince Nana goes over to check on Aubrey, which is good because nobody came out to do so. No other referee came out to check on her. Apparently the other referees maybe don't like her very much. There were no medics who came out to check on her. She just laid there dead in the ring for, I mean, it could have been a good 90 seconds, 2 minutes. Other than Nana, nobody bothered to come over and check on her. Swerve went up top. He hit a swerve stomp to Omega on the apron. And Omega's face took the brunt of that. Strickland took off the there's a protective cover on one of the beams that connects the turnbuckle to the ring post. And he hit a slingshot, so he sent Omega up face first right into the steel beam. And More boos from the crowd because he's being very heelish here in this match. See, now at this point, it's like, okay, he's acting kind of heelish, but he's trying to win a fucking match, right? So he's not a heel just because he's doing this, but yeah, the fans, they like Kenny Omega, and they're not very happy with what he's doing here. Still no medics, I should point out. Strickland called for another referee, and finally, Paul Turner runs out, right as Strickland hits a swerve stomp, but Omega kicks out, and the crowd goes nuts. Strickland is sitting there, and we got the zoomed in camera shot of the shocked look on his face. He can't believe it. So he rises to his feet. He wants the house call kick. Omega, he ducks into a snapdragon and then a V-trigger to the back. Poison Rana. Omega wanted the one-winged angel. Strickland escaped. He ran into another V-trigger. Omega wanted another one. Strickland, though, hit a charging house call kick. And then big pressure spiked Omega down on the back of his neck, and he got the win. Right in the center of the ring, Swerve Strickland in their first meeting pins Kenny Omega. That now makes Andrade, and Kenny Omega also lost here to Swerve. So 2 big losses in this story arc for Kenny Omega, who said at the very beginning of this year, it's time that I pursue the world championship again for the first time in a very long time. I'm going to earn it. No one's going to be able to say, oh, you're an EVP. Like, I'm going to earn my way into the world title picture. And now he's had 2 pretty big setbacks. So there's no need to rush this story, with Kenny. I'm glad we got an actual finish here to this match. But when it was over, I just thought to myself, well, that's one way to go out there and have the best television main event of the year so far. Holy shit. And I thought last week's match was. It was for about 7 days. And now we have a new number 1. Now, but we weren't done yet. So the match is over. Nana is dancing. And Swerve, he slowly turns back around to Omega and he pounces on him. And he is raining blows down upon this man. And even Nana is like, what are you doing here? And the fans are booing Swerve. This is where the heel turn was cemented. Not because he, did some nefarious things in the match. And yes, he pulled Aubrey Edwards in the way, but Asuka didn't like that spot. She wasn't very happy about that. So yes, that was heelish, but this cemented it. This cemented the heel turn because now the match is over. And now he's just putting a beat down on Kenny Omega. He's trying to get rid of the competition here. He wants the world title back. He is just trying to eliminate the competition as much as he can. Which actually, now that I think about it, makes me wonder, you want to eliminate some competition from the world title scene. I could think of something for Swerve to do at Revolution, now that Hangman went and added that stupid stipulation to his match. If he really wants to clear the field a little bit, he could cost Hangman his match with MJF. And then Hangman can never again challenge for the world championship. And then Hangman could just go back on his word and say, well, he cheated. He cost me my match. So therefore, I'm going to ignore the stipulation. And I am going to challenge for the world title. Because I didn't lose. Swerve cost me my match. See, now that at least would make sense. So then, not only was he beating up Kenny Omega, he tossed Paul Turner out of the ring. Just threw him out of the ring like a sack of garbage. Strickland took the chain from Nana, because when Swerve comes out now, he has that chain. He takes the chain, he wraps the chain around Omega's neck, throws him over the top rope, and he is hanging him with the chain by his throat. And the fans are booing Swerve, and Bryan Danielson on commentary is being all dramatic. You're better than this, Swerve. What are you doing? You're better than this. So Omega, he lets go, and Omega collapses to the floor, but he's not done yet. Swerve goes outside. He cleans off the announce desk, and Danielson is still yelling, you've proved your point. He sets up the ring steps right next to the desk, and he executes a vertebreaker to Kenny Omega from the steps through the announce desk, which does explode, and Kenny is dead. He has killed Kenny to close out the show. But the camera gets right up in Swerve's face, and he's looking at the camera, and he's like, I needed this. I needed this. So this is where I could potentially see them playing it very, tweener-like, where maybe it's not a full-blown heel turn. I tend to think it is. But if they wanted to, there could be some shades of gray in there. He's just doing what he feels he needs to do, to get back into that number one contender spot for the world title. But again, it's all about the world title. The match itself was excellent. Best television match of the year. Exactly the kind of match you would expect these two to go out there and have. Very pay-per-view quality-esque. I felt like they got a pretty good amount of time. I didn't clock it, but I feel like they got a pretty good amount of time to do what they needed to do. And now, again, the world title scene, which was already pretty compelling, becomes that much more compelling now that we have a Swerve heel turn. Heel Swerve is the best version of Swerve. And now we have that. And as I was saying, where do they go from here? Because they wrote Kenny Omega off television. This was the angle they did in Philadelphia at the ECW Arena last year, where Kyle Fletcher put Kenny through the table, I think, from the apron, which was never followed up on, by the way. I'll just point that out. So this is the second time now they've done an angle like this to write Kenny off of TV. I mentioned the event, the gaming convention in Japan that he committed to a very long time ago. Kenny is going to be the guest of honor there in mid-March. He was supposed to be there through the day of Revolution. It is possible that if they could work something out, maybe he can come back home earlier and be at Revolution. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't think they're expecting him at Revolution. So that's why I said maybe you do like a Swerve Brody King match, right? You could even, honestly, you could even build to that as like a number one contenders match if you wanted to. It doesn't really make too much sense because Swerve just beat Kenny. Brody lost already to MJF, but it would at least give him something to do on the show. I feel like just by virtue of beating Kenny Omega, that Swerve Strickland, that makes him the number one contender after Revolution. The way things are looking to me right now, Kenny is probably not going to be at Revolution. And Swerve may very well play a role in Hangman not winning his match and Hangman losing the chance to ever again compete for the title. And it might be Swerve getting the shot at Dynasty. Dynasty's where he won his first world title. I mean, I was thinking Dynasty for Kenny just because of the Vancouver connection. But for Kenny, I don't think you need to rush it. I really don't. If he's not going to be at Revolution, it actually kind of makes sense because you could do Swerve and MJF at Dynasty. But you have the hook of like, well, the main event of Revolution could conceivably go either way now because if Swerve is next in line, you could absolutely see Swerve and Hangman, or you could see Swerve and MJF, which is a match they still have never done. They've never done it. It's like Punk and Roman. They were technically in the same match together last year, but this is the first time at WrestleMania this year that we're getting a singles match between them. There's never been a singles match before between MJF and Swerve Strickland. So that may well be the Dynasty match. But you have this added wrinkle now of what Swerve did to Kenny Omega tonight. Kenny Omega, of course, good friends with Hangman Page. What's Hangman going to think of what Swerve did to Kenny tonight? Hangman just said on TV last week, Kenny, I wanted it to be you. I wanted to be wrestling you, not Andrade in Australia. And then he's going to see what Swerve did tonight. So we'll see if we get an interaction maybe between him and Hangman on TV next week. But it just makes things that much more interesting. It was an angle that I was not expecting at the end of the show. But I'm glad they did it because it just makes things a lot more interesting than it was before. So I enjoyed Dynamite. I thought it was a good show tonight. Let's see if the Twitter poll agrees. Holy shit. Take a look at this. Almost 900, over 800 votes in so far. 78.2% thumbs up. 21.8% thumbs down. When was the last time we had almost 80% thumbs up for Dynamite? So I guess I'm not alone. Good show tonight. Should probably open the Super Chats page so you don't get a black screen. That would probably be helpful. But let's go to your Super Chats now. Answer your questions, your comments. If you got any to send, get them on in. Want to hear from you guys. Oh, how many likes do we have? The goal was 432, right? We're at 434. So we just eclipsed the goal. Very good. Very good. Flamethrower Fluff Salisbury with a $5 super chat. Just curious, when will we be getting HOG in Florida? We're definitely going to be venturing down there at some point in the not too distant future. I don't have a date for you. We do have a school down there now in the Orlando Oviedo area. HOG South, HOG North. At some point we'll have a show down there. I don't have a specific date for you just yet. Johnny Burney, does Tony Khan hear Page's stipulation and think, welp, he's leaving? I've heard nothing about Hangman's contract status. I would think he's got Hangman for a little while yet. So I'm going to say no. Dry Chicken says the AEW production, 4 letters, 1 word, grit. TNA production, hard. The WWE production, neat. The WWE production is very polished. There's nothing gritty about WWE television. WWE television is the opposite of gritty. Not to be confused with that ugly, mangy mascot from Pennsylvania. Dry Chicken says it would not surprise me. Once Will Ospreay returns, he's going after Jon Moxley and his Continental title. And also your thoughts on the women's division. Well, I gave my thoughts earlier on the women's division. Yeah, I mean, him coming back and going after the Continental title doesn't really appeal to me as much as that story about him going after the world title. But if his comeback is, later in the spring, there may not be enough time, honestly, to tell the right story for him in the world title. I'm not convinced Moxley is going to be Continental Champion beyond Revolution. I think he drops it right. As I sit here right now, I feel like he drops it to Takeshita. So I'm not even sure. You're talking about him still being the champion in August. I don't know about that. I'm not feeling that. Steve Joseph, are you going to Double or Nothing? No plans right now. Got to be here for the review. At the moment, undecided, but probably not. Unless something changes. Dry Chicken, heel Swerve is back. Yes, heel Swerve is the best Swerve. Terry with a 5. Kyle versus Speedball TV match was fantastic in January. Continental Classic Tournament. Hi. Continental Classic was in December. Not January. And that was a great match. Duff's Vids, George Clooney, Leonardo DiCaprio, Matthew McConaughey get together to make a movie. George says, I'll direct. Leonardo says, I'll act. Matthew McConaughey says, all right. All right. Mr. Rod, thank you for the 5. No message. Thank you, my friend. Dried chicken without flavor. Tony Khan should create a tag team tournament cup. Oh, great. More prizes to fight for. We already have the Owen belts. And we have the gauntlet contracts. Now you want cups. You know what should have a cup? Besides all the people who get kicked in the dick on TV, the Continental Classic should have a cup. There should be the Continental Cup and no Continental title. Continental Cup and a World Championship, guaranteed World Championship match. Bender McSimpson. Not sure where Tony Khan is going with Hangman's proposition. I don't want MJF to drop the belt so soon. And yes, more heel Swerve, please. MJF cannot lose that title at Revolution. I mean, that would just be ridiculous. MJF is mid. Says, excited to watch MJF against Zilla Fatu on Triller. Love your new podcast. It's my favorite pod of the week. Your shows are not mid. No, they're definitely not mid. There's a lot of mid podcasts out there. Mine ain't one of them. Thank you, brother. It's going to be a good match on Friday night. You know, we're all this talk about MJF and Hangman at Revolution. It might all be moot. It might be rendered completely moot on Friday night. If Zilla Fatu wins the AEW World title and signs his AEW contract in the middle of the ring, can you imagine? Hey, anything can happen. Oh, with a $5 super chat. Did you hear what Ian Riccaboni said about Ring of Honor? All these sudden signings are starting to make sense. I did not see what Ian Riccaboni said, but if you have been listening to some of the recent shows, I did make a comment a few weeks ago about all of these sudden signings that we're hearing about. And I wonder if something is amiss. I wonder if something is going on with Ring of Honor. I wonder if they feel like there might be an actual TV deal in the works for Ring of Honor. So I don't know what Riccaboni said, but if it's something to that effect, I would not be surprised. I had the same thought, you know, when I read about all these new signings. And Tuxedo T Servo, $15 super chat, no message, just showing love. I love it. And Alex says, Brother Solo, buy, rent, sell. Buy, rent, sell on your favorite Cody match versus Roman at WrestleMania 40. Says Dustin at Double or Nothing 2019. Him and Dustin against Roman and Seth at Battleground 2013. I would go WrestleMania 40. And I would rent on the Double or Nothing, and I would sell on the tag. But all three matches were great. And actually, the Seth Rollins sell of the Crossroads in that tag match is still the best sell I've ever seen on the Crossroads. I know there was that one extra. It was on an episode of SmackDown who took a Crossroads. I mean, he took this fucking exaggerated bump for it, which was great. But that Rollins sell, that's still the best one. What is Hangman's record in Texas death matches? I don't think he's undefeated, but he's got a winning record. I know that. I think his record is pretty good. But yeah, there it is. House of Glory, no turning back. You can't be at the NYC Arena on Friday nights. And there are still limited general admission seats available. And actually, I can't even say seats. General admission tickets. You'll probably be standing. But if you can get to the building, get to the building. Because this is not going to be a show that you're going to want to miss. All 5 rows are sold out. Stage seating is sold out. GA tickets are still available. But you can watch it on Triller TV Plus. On the one side, you see MJF defending the AEW World Championship against Zilla Fatu. And then Andrade El Idolo, who has been collecting world championships in multiple promotions around the world. Mexico, Puerto Rico, Germany. He's the new heavyweight champion in the German Wrestling Federation. And now he is coming for Charles Mason's HOG World Championship. So those are 2 of the big matches on Friday nights. I will be there. I will be on the call. Probably be running around doing a whole bunch of different things. It's going to be a big night. And because of that, I will not be here for the SmackDown review on Friday night. So just be aware of that. But see, I have a good excuse, though. I do have a good excuse. All right, you hit the goal. Let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
Yeah, Hangman lost to Swerve, but I'm pretty sure he's got a winning record otherwise in Texas death matches. He's done pretty well. Beat Moxley and won to win the world title last year. All right, we were talking about tag teams before. Well, here's a tag team right here. The Dream Team of Brutus Beefcake and Greg the Hammer Valentine. Look at the swag on Valentine. Look at this guy. His purple shirt. Buttons are open. Shades are hanging. Look at the Rolex on his wrist. Gold in his lap. Look at this guy. And the Dream Team takes on, well, some might call this a dream team. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Dude Love against Valentine and Beefcake. See, now those are tag team titles. Those are what tag team titles should look like. Hey, Rican Son, what's going on? 51 months and a blue skull. As HOG commish, have you talked to TK yet? If not, how do you get other promotions wrestlers? Oh, I can't share trade secrets here. They want to come to House of Glory. I can't divulge those secrets. It says, P.S. Let's go Yankees. And now I'm definitely not going to tell you. I was thinking about it, and I said, should I? And then I saw Let's Go Yankees, and I said, no. No, he doesn't deserve it. Women's Be the Booker. We have Saraya, who has actually been training for an in-ring comeback lately. Where, we don't know, but she is training for a comeback. Saraya is going to go one-on-one with Victoria. How are we feeling about this? I put it to the chat. Victoria and Saraya. I'll give it a bell. But how are we feeling about this? HOG unreal. There'll be no breaking kayfabe in this company. We've got to keep kayfabe at all times. All right, main event time. Oh, we have Orange Cassidy in the main event. It's basically like me. I'm in the main event, basically. Orange Cassidy in the main event against Batista. I don't know what main event that would be, what pay-per-view that would be main eventing, but not mine. Sorry, Dave. Batista and Orange Cassidy is not a main event in my promotion. Row Roman Reigns gently down the stream. Row Roman Reigns gently down the stream. Oh, we almost had a clean sweep. Almost, but not quite. Bobby's World with a 21. Thank you, brother. Eli delivers box. Box contains Jericho. GMs ship the box around forever. They finally open the box to find Jericho expired. What follows is manslaughter trials for Eli, the GMs, and whoever sent the box. WWE story. Or maybe TK sent the box. Because you want him, here you go. Now you can have him. I would watch those trials. If they put those trials on like Court TV during the day, I would watch those trials. And I would review them on the Sound Off each day. Every week, there would be a trial review segment. That'd be riveting audio for the podcast. Moore said, Solo, Swerve choked Kenny out with a chain when Dynamite went off the air. It is clear that this is a full heel turn. It's what I felt, but I wasn't entirely sure, but that's good to know. Good. Good. He should be full heel. He's at his best when he's a heel. He's at his most sinister when he's a heel. We go from Rock and Cena's heel turn to Danhausen. Well, I don't think they're going to close the show with it. Has anyone ever told you that something was a stupid decision and you still did it anyway? Yes. I believe in my ideas, even if others don't. You got to see the vision through. I guess we won't have a chance to redeem ourselves on the Be the Booker stuff until Monday. So that'll be on the Raw review. That's the next time I'll be live with you. But this weekend, of course, you'll have a brand new episode of The Sound Off, episode 952, already being worked on. Already collecting news for the week and going through your email questions. So get them on in. And again, if you did not already listen, the Uncrowned Wrestling Show went up yesterday. If you're looking for a podcast fix and about an hour and 20 minutes to kill tomorrow, there you go. It's not on my feed. Just to remind everybody, it drops every Tuesday evening on the Ariel Helwani Show feed. You'll see some of his other shows on there. The Crack, The Boys in the Back, a lot of MMA shows. This is the brand new wrestling show. We want to make this a big success on the feed there. That only happens if you download and stream and tune in. And so far, so good. We're kicking ass so far, so I love hearing that. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me here on a Wednesday night. It's good to have a nice Dynamite. And I will be back with you very soon. Check out all the other content, the shorts that have been going up on the channel. I'm trying to get more of those out. As long as you guys keep commenting on them and responding and like them, we'll keep pumping those out here. Always trying to offer some new stuff. Be well, stay safe, have yourselves a great rest of your night, and I will see you back here on the channel for more Solomonster Sounds Off very soon. Until then, take care, guys. See you Friday night, NYC Arena. Oh, I just caught Gold Matthew. Gold Matthew came in at the very last second. I didn't want to leave him hanging here. It says, just watched H Hart WWS. Hitman Hart, Wrestling with Shadows for the first time. It's crazy, the access and footage that they had and how it came out in 98. When did you see it and what were your thoughts? I saw it, had to be right after it came out. So, 98, I guess, right? 98, 99, whenever it came out. I remember seeing it and I was blown away. You know, it just so happened that they started filming when Brett came back to the company at the end of 96 and signed that 20-year deal. The cameras, I think, around that time started rolling. And so they had this active documentary crew that was following him around, and Vince gave him access to the locker room. And then all this shit went down, and they just happened to capture some golden stuff. It's pretty incredible, the stuff they were able to capture. Leading up to the most infamous, I guess, incident or double cross in wrestling history. I'm glad they had access to it. Assuming healthy, do you think Brett would have been a bigger star if he returned to WWF in 2001? And what would his role be in the invasion? Bigger star in what context? I mean, he was never gonna be bigger than he was years before, but he would have been a bigger deal than he was in WCW. You know, for all the titles he won, the WCW run for me was just very forgettable. There were a lot of guys who left WWF to go there, and I just was not a fan of their run there. You know, Randy Savage, Brett, Bobby Heenan. It just wasn't the same. But in WWF, they could have had fun with him if he came back in 01. During the invasion, I don't know. I don't know what his role would have been. I feel like it kind of would have made sense for him to go against McMahon. But then I also feel like in the end, maybe him being kind of the hero, the returning hero coming back to the WWF side. And then it would just be a matter of figuring out how you get there, right? You make him the mole. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. But yeah, he would have been a part of that for sure. He was just another guy in WCW. Unfortunately, you can say that about a lot of guys there. I just remember Bobby Heenan when he came in, like the very beginning, he was still kind of like the old brain. And as he tells the story, it wasn't long into his tenure there. Like he'd be talking to Bischoff and offering ideas. And Bischoff just blew him off. Like, just do your job. And at that point, Bobby was like, oh, okay, I get it. It's just a paycheck. And from that point forward, that's how he treated it. It was just a paycheck. He's like, I'm not gonna bother. I'll go to work, I'll do what I'm told, I'll get my money, and I'll go home. And he was never the same after that. Anyway, now we're done. Have a good night.